Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, an associate, a relative, an enemy, and anyone in between. Appreciate all of it. Check out the memberships. More and more people seem to be joining, so I've got to be extremely thankful for that. The weekend on a whole was actually a decent weekend. Not just obviously boxing, there was other events on. Like, I was meant to be at the O2 this weekend, seeing as I didn't get accreditations to go to Manchester, and I never applied for the Sheffield ones, to be honest, just because the card itself, while I thought it might be a pretty interesting card, the only people I actually would have wanted to see was Beatrice Ferreira and the main event, so I didn't think it was worth kind of going up there just to sort of do that. But let's talk through some of the action, I guess. So every prediction stuck except for the method. I got two methods wrong, and that was that Dalton Smith, I thought he would go the distance and get a UD against Sam Maxwell, but he did get the 7th round KO, which was impressive. I mean, I thought he would sort of have, quite a bit in there, but I did say previous that it would be a fight where both guys, I guess, got tested in some way. Dalton Smith did take some big shots from Sam Maxwell. Obviously, he got cut over both eyes. One was a head clash, the other from a punch. But Sam Maxwell, also took some shots, had him a bit unsteady from sort of like round 4, round 5. And then sort of that temple shot in the 7th round just took his whole body away. It was lights out. That was an entertaining fight. I'll give him that. I haven't watched all of the fights in the entirety of the Matchroom card because honestly I was out, and then when I came back I was like, well, I'll watch the main event. Luckily the main event literally finished about 2 minutes before the main event on Sky Sports and Box was taking place, so I got in just in time to sort of watch those last 2 main events. And that prediction pretty much stuck. I said I thought it would be like a split decision victory to Savannah Marshall, and it ended up being the majority, so give or take you can say that one was near enough correct. My prediction on it would be that the fight would be one of those ones where you could argue that Franchon maybe did enough, but just due to the fact of I can't see Savannah being allowed to take 2 defeats on the bounce, and it would definitely be of the situation where you could maybe give certain rounds. And funnily enough, there was 2 rounds in particular that I was gonna give to Franchon Cruz until right at the very end of the round, when Savannah maybe just initiated a bit of the cleaner work or just some eye-catching stuff right at the end to sort of create that tiny bit of separation between the two. So my scorecard, for anyone that's interested, was 94-96 to Savannah. I gave Franchon Cruz round 1. I gave Savannah round 2. I gave Cruz round 3. I gave Savannah round 4. I gave Savannah round 5 and round 6. Gave Cruz Dezern round 7. Gave Savannah round 8 and round 9. And then gave Cruz Dezern round 10. So when I saw and heard that there was the 95-95 card, I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's not too dissimilar from mine. But that being said, it was hard to see 5 rounds that I could specifically give to Cruz, especially when a lot of the time she looked a little bit unsteady, like balance wise, whereas Savannah managed to keep her shape a little better throughout the majority of the rounds. So I think that was something that probably played a part. Cruz looked a little bit ragged at times when maybe she was swinging in wide or sort of trying to lunge in, whereas Savannah just managed to sort of keep a little bit more of a shape, although Savannah definitely looked the more tired and sort of the more worn down of the two. And I guess part of that was just Cruz Dezern's tactics to stay on the inside not allow Savannah to get sort of, full extension on punches, and just sort of try to bully her around the ring and just work her and grind her down that way. The other two cards, I mean, the 93-97 card to Savannah feels a little bit unfair, but I don't have too many arguments with it, because again, there are, it sometimes, if you just looked and saw some of the cleaner stuff and didn't really see what was going on the inside, or who was maybe initiating more of the action, I can kind of understand that one. The card that was 99-92 though, that one I think was, that was wrong. I know that I saw a lot of people trying to score in, well, they had the viewers scorecards, which you can't ever really leave it up to viewers as to who's winning what. Most of the time, the viewers are just, they're there to support a specific person anyway. So you definitely had to take the viewers card with a pinch of salt. But yeah, the judge that scored it 99-92, I feel was wrong. I even, like a lot of people was on Twitter, was like, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 to Savannah. I'm like, I don't really know what you're watching, unless you're literally not paying attention and just seeing like a clean long shot here or there, and that's sort of what you're basing it off. Because again, if you're just looking at the cleaner work and maybe who's got the most eye-catching shots in the majority of the rounds, it is Savannah. But it's not just about the eye-catching shots. But that being said, ultimately, I guess it doesn't matter too much. It's a bit, I guess it's a bit unfair to Franchon Cruz that it looked as wide as it did. However, I guess because it's a majority decision, she can maybe, hold her head high and say, well, one person saw it fairly correctly, to say, well, you know what, all right, you swing it one round to her, and I can kind of accept it, so 95, then say, okay, maybe I did lose it 90, 94, 96. But to say that she only won one round and she got a draw in one, and then the other 8 was just Savannah, to me it's not right. But the right person did win, so the prediction stuck. Arslanbek Makhmudov and Rafael Akpegiori. That one pretty much ended as I thought it would. I said it would be inside 3 rounds, and it ended up being inside 2. So no particular issues there. Now the big surprise, not obviously counting Natasha Jonas, because I said that would be a KO. I think on my scorecard I've predicted round 8. I'll have to check. I send an email through to this panel every week, and I think I'll put Natasha Jonas KO round 8. So I think I got that one right as well. The only big surprise, I guess, was Jared Anderson, the real big baby, actually going points with Charles Martin. Now, surprisingly, I thought this would be like a difficult fight. I said that I think Charles Martin's going to pose him some problems, and he's actually going to, I think he's going to catch him, and he's going to have to almost make Jared sort of question himself a little bit, similar to like what he did with Luis Ortiz when he dropped him twice. But I said that I felt like Jared would sort of come through that and, sort of catch Charles Martin on the back end, especially obviously being sort of last minute, maybe not being in the best of preparation. And I said I thought that he would maybe get a stoppage in round 7. Now, I didn't actually realize it was a 10 rounder. I thought they would go take it to a 12 rounder, but as it being 10, it kind of made sense because he was a last minute replacement. He didn't look that bad. He didn't look, I guess, as the destructive person that we're used to seeing. But that being said, I mean, in the pros, I think this is the first southpaw that he's fought. And obviously, it's not just the first southpaw. It's like he's fighting a southpaw that, while maybe is crowned as like the worst world heavyweight champion, legit one that there's ever been, he was still a world heavyweight champion. And he's been in there with a lot of different people, and, it's kind of gone the distance or accounted himself very well. Like the fight he had just after the AJ fight, almost 2 months out of the ring with Adam Kovnatski, when Kovnatski was a somebody when he was on the ascendancy, and he went all 10 rounds with him in that 10 rounder. Then all the subsequent victories he had after that, against, you know, decent level people. The Luis Ortiz one, bear in mind, he was winning that fight up until he got caught on the temple and got like stopped on his feet. But that should have been his victory to win as well. So he's not a scrub by any shakes. But I feel like most of the time Jared Anderson had the benefit of being either the taller guy or sort of having the longer range in the ring against his opponents, whereas this case he was shorter and had the shorter reach. So I think that was stuff that he was trying to figure out on the fly, and obviously he was initially getting ready for Zanko Sabutsky, who I believe is only 6'3", so an inch shorter than him, with a shorter reach as well. So it wasn't the best of performances, and he got chin checked on several occasions. But there was also a couple of occasions whereby he had Charles Martin visibly hurt and for whatever reason didn't step on the gas at that particular moment and allowed Charles Martin to circle around, and instead of cutting off the ring, he was almost following him at times. He did quite well when he was switching from orthodox to southpaw, just making that normal trajectory. But obviously it's clear that he's not southpaw. He's proficient, but he's not sort of southpaw comfortable. So he didn't really stay in that stance too long throughout the fight. But you could see from round 5, because I think that's when Jared Anderson started taking a bit of a pasting from Charles Martin. The next 5 rounds, Charles Martin was extremely economic, and you could see him heavy breathing both in between rounds and in the ring. He was barely throwing anything. It was almost like I'm just looking for that one shot, because that's all I can muster at this point in time. That being said though, so while Jared Anderson, I still feel like he's one of the future guys, this performance says, okay, well, he's still got a lot more learning to do. Which, to be fair, at the age of 23, that's how it's supposed to be. You ain't supposed to be the finished article. I mean, look, he's been talking about wanting to retire at 26 and not really being in love with boxing, and it's just a job. We need to see kind of, I guess, what he thinks from this fight and what he's going to do moving forward. What might be a good idea would be to fight another southpaw, and then another maybe try and see if we can get 3 different southpaw opponents back to back, possibly even run it back with Charles Martin, because it was a competitive enough fight in terms of the actual aesthetics and the danger to say, okay, I didn't do great in this one, maybe I had the hometown jitters or whatever, so let's run it back elsewhere and see if the situation is different. I'm sure Charles Martin will be up for that, but maybe, you know, if you train a full camp for him, it might be a different result. But yeah, look, Charles Martin, first person to take him the distance. He's a pretty decent operator. You know, it's quite clear that his new role is more gatekeeper than anything else. And maybe Charles Martin's on a quest for himself now to. I know he said before he wanted to right the wrong of the losses he had. Well, the Adam Kovnatsky one isn't going to happen, but you know, maybe that's something you could look at. Okay, Charles Martin trying to get redemption there, but Adam coming off 4 losses, it probably won't mean anything to him now. Maybe he might want to try run it back with Luis Ortiz to get back that victory, and maybe before he retires, try and get back in the ring with Anthony Joshua. Maybe that might be his path now. I just want to get back in the ring with everyone that's beat me and see if I can, you know, right the wrongs. Jared Anderson might not be that guy in terms of that plan, but the others, I can't see why that wouldn't be an idea. In terms of the undercards and stuff, I haven't watched a lot of the undercards for any of the fights, to be honest. I know Zach Chelly busted an accumulator I had, which I was not happy about. But to be fair, he wasn't the only one. He was just the first. So that was just the one that pissed me off the most. But him, Jahi Tucker, they both failed to secure me my money. And technically, so did Jared Anderson, because I did predict on the KO victory. I didn't, expect points. I didn't do it outright. I just said KO. So I probably would have lost it anyway. But that being said, I mean, coming up to that fight, I could have literally probably cashed out. But yeah, it wasn't to be. So I haven't watched any of the other fights. I haven't seen the full Natasha Jonas fight, but I've seen the highlights. I've seen enough of it. I knew what it was going to be anyway, so not really a huge issue. I did see Beatrice Ferreira versus Carla. Was it Zamora? That was a great little 8-round fight. I enjoyed that. Carla extremely tough. It's like, you got to be ready for the war. And while that she was getting beat up by Beatrice, Beatrice okay, why is she still here? People either supposed to go into their shell, or they're supposed to go down after these kind of beatings that I'm putting on it. But no, Carla took the beating, and she gave as good as she got. There were certain exchanges where Beatrice was getting tested as well, but that's exactly what you kind of need, especially when you're on the fast track. Outside of that, I haven't actually watched any of the other fights all the way through. Like I said, I saw Makhmudov at Pejori. I saw Anderson and Martin. I saw Cruz, Marshall, and Dalton Smith, Maxwell, and those are pretty much the only fights. I've kind of gone back, and I probably will watch some of the others, but I doubt we're going to get a chance to watch a bunch of them and put on the breakdown for Wednesday this week. Bear in mind, because we do have the big interview with Nonito Donaire, so make sure you're tuned into the Undefeated podcast channel for that this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Outside of that, I was also, like I said, I was going to be going to the O2 because the WWE Money in the Bank event was down there. Didn't end up going down, but I have watched it thus far, and it was, again, that was another little fun show. So it was a fun Saturday all in all. There was a lot to do. I went out, ate some food yesterday, caught up with an old friend, just kicking it for a bit. So yeah, I might get around to some of the other stuff. There's some other bits and pieces that have taken place this week, which I definitely will be speaking about on the video. I might probably drop that tomorrow. If not tomorrow, I'll probably drop one on Tuesday as well. And so yeah, look out for that content coming. But for right now, that's the weekend wrapped up. Let me know what you thought of the fights, how you thought Jared Anderson done. If you think that, a lot of the critique that he got was a bit overboard, whether there's more that needs doing, etc. Where does Makhmudov go next? Cruz Dezern? What about Savannah Marshall? Is that lining up the second fight with Claressa Shields? Speaking of that, actually, okay, it was hard to. I didn't watch obviously the entire broadcast, so I can't tell the entire thing, but the way Claressa Shields was during, not commentary, but in the pre-fight and the build-ups or whatever, and when they're sort of just asking the general questions, again, people think that there's an agenda against her, but she's just not a likable person. I'm sorry, she's not. For the entire event, her face was sour. Now, partially I get it. Look, you're there. People might be saying stuff because obviously Savannah's still the hometown girl. I get it, but the way she was answering a lot of questions, how dismissive she was being of the main event, how biased she was being. Obviously, she's there to support Cruz Dezern. That's fine, but there's still ways that you can do that without coming across like a complete dick. And that's a word I'll use in favor of other words because, but yeah, it's, look, at least now it's probably built up a bit of intrigue for that rematch because, again, you can talk crap. That's not a problem, but there is a way to go about it, especially when you're kind of there to do a job. And I just don't feel like she's very professional in that sense. And that's part of the reason why she just can't ever get the due credit that she wants or the opportunities that she needs. And it's frustrating, because she should be a lot higher up in people's esteem than she is, but a lot of it she causes on herself. And no one can't really tell me that her on that day like represented herself in the best possible light. I've been saying all throughout this this time, Cruz Dezern has shown you like how you basically go about things. Like, her personality is radiant, she's on smoke, but even when she's on smoke, it's like, okay, I understand that there's still a level of professionalism I have to exude, but just know that you're not going to take the piss. And if Claressa could get some of that, if like I made a video previously this week where I was basically talking about, if Claressa had Franchon Cruz's personality, she'd probably be like the woman, like, you know, sort of that household woman. She might be the face of women's boxing, because that would be a perfect matchup, her talents and skills with Franchon Cruz's personality. But unfortunately, she doesn't have that. Anyway, if you want to see that video, members only, it's in the like, join the membership, you can see it. But I'm gonna leave it there. I've spoken enough. I've got a few things to do. Hope I haven't wasted anyone's time. Appreciate you all. Again, new members, big up to you, and I'll catch you in the next video. So that's the weekend wrapped up. Now eat some food, hit the gym. Peace.